Coming at you with conscious conversations with my co-host Carolyn&Larry Roberts. Good morning. It's a fine morning here on the Oregon coast. It's nice and sunny, and I guess they're having a little bit of rain down where Carolyn's at in San Antonio, Texas. But we're going to discuss today the anchoring of the light, the path of a child. We're going to ponder holding steady and aligning with the innocence, to be childlike and pure-hearted. Why would you make this choice? Can this choice really serve you despite current external events that may be going on? Is this the type of work that is vital to you as you traverse your way through the onslaught of shifts that are occurring on the planet in these times? Where does your new come from? Good morning, Carolyn Lanier Roberts. How are you?
Hi. Hey, I'm grateful that we're finally on and all the things that we moved through this morning have hopefully leveled out here. And grateful for whatever we offer that serves. Um, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I know this is a subject we were bound to tackle at some point, and I'm sure that we will tackle various variations of it as we move forward with what we do here on the show. And there's really no, I think that we all come to the same place with this at some point, but there's all kinds of different ways that this we get taken away from anchoring that light, right? We get thrown off that path at some point, and we have to move into societal norms and issues like that. But I think I've always heard that we should be more, in this community, we should be, from some of the elders, we should be more like the children, more like how they are, and then some people might hear that and think, well, that means what, just be irresponsible and just say what, to hell with everything and just do what you want to do. No, that's not really it at all. It's just that unjudgmental innocence, I think, that we're born with, right? And somehow we get taken off that path, and it happens for all kinds of various reasons. But society kind of impresses that upon us to, don't have. The way I take it, and this is just for me, is limit your imagination. Stay with inside the box. Don't don't have an imaginary friend. Don't have any kind of outlet outside of this reality, but what's going on right in front of you. And I feel like I've my whole life when I was younger, I felt like it was kind of a push towards, everything was just a push towards making me older and older and older. You know what I mean? With no time to really enjoy um, eh,
Yeah.
having to be to be a child.
The thing that I need to I feel that you and I both and we've already spoken of it off air, but I feel like it needs to be qualified with the fact that when we're talking about children, either the inner child or the external children, it's a very sensitive, tender topic. Certainly there are others, but this is one that reaches into every soul, undeniably.
Hmm.
And um we each have had different childhoods, and they do form us, and they do help point us in the direction, or they will point us in the direction that we're going, but that doesn't mean that we stay there. Like your childhood was traumatic, my partner's was very traumatic, both of you guys equally. Mine was traumatic in some ways, but not to the degree that you guys had it. My stuff came, after, here in adulthood, after, when I was married, and then after I was married, and then I went through everything then. But, just like I said before we went on air, when my guides were saying that the density, the bearing is felt at different places for each of us, right? They were talking about the weight, and the weight of the bearing of the experience. And when they said weight, it wasn't WAIT, it was WEIGHT. And they were kind of showing me this. And it's like, this subject is coming up because um the new, just like we said, where does your new come from? Your new has to come from a place where you're new within yourself, and the new within yourself is always going to be connected to that child. And it doesn't have to be, you can say innocence, and I know, I feel within me that's a loaded word for some
Yeah.
people. I got that. So one of the things I've talked to you about is when my guides for me, defined pure for me. They did it many years ago, and when they told me, it kind of blew my mind. When they defined pure for me, they didn't say, they were like, pure. Pure is not white as the snow. Pure is not new as a newborn baby. They were like, no, that's not really pure. They told me, they're like, pure is the combination of the known and the unknown, and then they merge. And as they merge, they come back through and they become pure again. When that child is born, is it new? Is it innocent? Yes, it is at one level, but it's also a soul that has its own knowing within itself. No matter if an old soul or new soul, there's still this innate knowing within that soul. And so that's the known. Yes, they're innocent, they're pure when they're new on this earth, but yet still they're not. There's a balance, and there's always a balance. And that's something that they gave me, is that even with white, there's dark, and there's no judgment in these colors. It's, they come together. There's the known and the unknown. And the way they gave it to me was that moving back into purity is, it's all these colors. And as I've said in other podcasts, that color for me, the rainbow, before, with all respect, the way it's been defined for here and the purpose here in this era, in the past, in eons past, in the beginning, as I understand it and understand it, rainbow colors, every soul equals every choice, equals every perspective, every soul, every choice, every color, all are included, all together. It's about togetherness, period. And so for what I receive within me, the known and the unknown, it's like every color, every experience, all together, merged, becomes this purity again. And it's that's the way I receive it within me. And so it's like, when we're moving into this new age now, this new time, the new is basically, it's you, it's every soul allowing themselves a respite, is what I'm hearing, a rejuvenation, a transformation, a releasing. It's all these things with clearing away, seeing, addressing, making peace with, to be able to clear away what was. And then you have this new grounding. It doesn't mean that the other is gone. It's always part of you. It's the reason why you have this new level, because it's always part of you. But you make peace with it. Just like when you and I were talking earlier, you, with what you were telling me, Larry, you're at a place, you're dealing with it, and you're making peace with it. And it's
Yeah.
just, it's something, they come together, and it's always about balance. But the way that my guides have given to me, and like the image that's being used for this podcast, is a channel that came through me years ago, about the time we're in, which is the path of the child. And what they gave me was, it's not about the child walking behind the adult, and it's not about the child walking in front of the adult. It's the child walking with the adult. However, what I'm given is that the child leads, and the child can lead because the adult is right there to support them, not hold them
Hmm.
back, but to protect them and to hold a space for them, while they can just be and explore, knowing that they're being backed up. And that's about the path of the child. That's the divine balance, is what I'm also hearing within me. Um, does this make sense, Larry?
Yeah, as you're sitting there talking, it makes me think too. When we're talking about letting the child lead the way, and the kind of the parent being there to be the protector, right? Well, I'm
Right.
thinking of that too, along with, we're moving into more of a societal thought of the divine feminine being empowered, and the divine masculine being there with the divine feminine, but
Right.
divine masculine is there for the protection. But we're moving more in towards the mentality of letting the divine feminine lead, and I think that ties into letting the child lead too. And I think this is really a big reckoning at some point. And now, actually, it's a big reckoning for our society as a whole on this planet, with the child. the time is right for it with the younger souls or the older souls, the younger people that are born here now that are much older souls than we were. Um, the time is just ripe all the way around for this kind of a thought, and I think that I can see a day coming real soon where, as a society overall, we're putting more of an emphasis on this, right? On,
Right.
and it ties back into some of the other things we've talked about the school hours, about things of that nature, allowing kids to have an imagination, encouraging it. I mean, I'm not allowing, I should say encouraging it versus discouraging it at every turn, right? Um,
Right.
letting them kind of lead the way, but they're, just kind of you be there to be the manager, the structure, to kind of just keep it on task, right? But letting that child's intuition and letting their love flow and guide as far as where we move forward towards. And I just think that it's really a great day we have on the horizon, and it couldn't come to soon enough. Yeah, a lot has changed in our short time in this world, yours and mine, Carolyn, of course, and the era
Yeah.
we come from, and things were different. Things were more centered as to back then as to where what you were dealing with just in your. I mean, things were more not as included as nowadays. Nowadays, things are more open, things are more out there, and that's because of social media. That's because of humans evolving. I just really think that this is something that has been talked about, but it's finally gotten to the point where it's not something that's just kind of a one-liner cliche like your inner child or going with the, some of these things get,
Right.
some of these things have gotten bogged down and lost in a cliche or a one-liner, oh,
Yeah.
your inner child. Oh, that sounds so weird and woo-woo, right? That sounds so woo-woo, or that's just a bunch of mumbo jumbo or whatever.
Yeah.
People on both sides, the people that are saying it and people that used to be or against it, people are starting to realize that it is the case. They're starting to come to that realization. I really feel that there's something to this, and it's not just about letting the kid just run willy-nilly and run the show and
Mhm.
not give them any structure or anything. No, that's quite the opposite. But going more with their heart feeling in their gut, because a kid will never steer you wrong in his heart. A child will never steer you wrong. I
Right.
mean, their intuitions are usually pretty dead on.
Right.
It's just
Yep.
that they've been, told to, be seen and not heard, and so every roadblock was thrown in their way to not explore those feelings and to not, to be careful what you said, or
Right.
only speak when spoken to, right? That kind of mentality. I mean, I've heard it before growing up. I've heard it before from older people. A child's supposed to be seen and not heard. I mean, I just, I never resonated with that. I couldn't really even ever
Beautiful.
understand what that would mean. Why would that be the case? And because and then when you get to a certain age, what you're supposed to be seen, you're supposed to be heard then because you got to that age. I
Right.
mean, what?
It,
Yeah, fuck.
yeah. No, I hear you. The thing I was getting when you were talking about it is that mentality, just like you're saying, things have shifted. That level of consciousness, to me, what I receive is we raise the consciousness, and so that mentality, that belief system is going to the wayside, is what I just heard. But it was about, you could even say, the beginning of this lifetime and the ones before that, about survival. And it's clear that what we've come through, we don't want to repeat. And so it's clear, and it's becoming more and more clear, that there has to be a shift from what we've done before, because we can see where it's led to. We can also see, and that's the beautiful thing, like you're talking about social media, we can see more and more people and what they've come through and
Yeah,
how they're making different choices. And something I was given a minute ago is I was hearing about planting this in childhood. I heard inner creation. And then what I was getting was allowing the child to imagine, allowing the child to dream, and that inner creation leads to outer creation. And then I was getting this thing about, and when they move to outer creation, to wanting to create something in the physical as a child, that's where they could naturally or would naturally entertain disciplining themselves. And I've said this in other podcasts. For me, when I see discipline, I think disciple, teaching, a teacher. They become their own teacher. It doesn't mean that there aren't adults there to guide them,
Right.
loving adults, but they lead themselves. They let the energy, the divine through them, lead them from the inner creation to the outer creation. And that, to me, what I receive, that's the way it's divinely intended. And we are where we are because of the choices that were made. And I'm just going to say what I'm getting in the last era, in the Piscean era. We are
Mm-hmm.
here, we are now. And the reason why you and I are even having this podcast is because it's divine time to have this conversation. And we didn't say inner child because you and I talked about it. I kept feeling within me, it's so trite. It's so beat up. It
Mm-hmm.
doesn't mean it's not valid. It's very valid. But the way, to me, that the general society has been coming at it is like, okay, it's like coming
Yeah.
at it as like this flat piece of paper, as this solid thing, and they're not looking around to the other side, and they're not looking from this angle and this angle. They're just like this. It has more levels and depths than just what's been presented, because like I said at the beginning of the podcast, the inner child is also about the outer child, the outer children. It's
Yeah.
the same, it's a flow. And you can even put that towards, it is about the innocence. Yes, it is about the joy. It is about the new. And it's about these energies that ideally begin as children in a child. And they, to me, what I receive is they're always in a child. Now, do these circumstances, do the families where the child's being brought up support that, or have they? No, not necessarily. Not
Mm-hmm.
necessarily, but that seed's there. And to me, when that seed's there, divinely there, it means that that seed still exists. Even when that person as an adult is expressing things differently, that seed still exists there because it's part of the divine alchemy, creation of
Yeah.
every soul. And so it's a matter of, as it is a trite term, but it's one that feels right to me, is doing that inner work, doing that shadow work. Um, as you feel called to it, or as your experience brings it forward, and forces that work to be done, so that you can, and I'm hearing right now, remember where happiness begins. Because happiness and joy, because to me happiness is this fleeting thing, but joy is this it, possible continuous thing, with
Yeah.
fluctuations, obviously, right? So that connected joy, that continuous flow of peace and joy and openness and readiness is what I'm hearing, can be reached. And that's because the
It's
child within you, the part within you that is seeking the new, and that is reaching for that new, and that knows that what has been is not the path of the new, can speak, can come forward and begin to shape. And the thing I'm getting is come forward, and they're showing me that, like, the adults here, and the child walks next to the adult but is leading. And so come forward is the child leading the adult. The adult's right there, the adult's right there to be with the child, but the child is leading. um Larry.
Sounds very alchemically quantum. Yeah, right. You were discussing and breaking that down pretty good there at first. You were talking about how we didn't want to bring up the inner child term because it sounds so trite, right? And we brought up other examples of that in past podcasts about different one-liners.
Yep.
Yeah, how can you love somebody if you don't love yourself? Do unto
We could do a
others.
whole podcast on
Yeah,
one
yeah. I
liners.
mean, we could do on those one-liner contrite those and it's hard not to sound contrite when you're using them, right? And I think that what social media, another thing about it is too, is it's taken us from 6 degrees of separation from each other to only like 1 or 2 degrees of separation, right? So
Right,
everything is not so distant, and everything, even even next door is not. It doesn't seem like a country away is a world away. Whereas in the past, it might have seemed like next door, what was going on was a goddamn whole world away, right? And so, yeah, and I think as you get older, right, too, you're right, that inner child that always stays with you. That part of you never does go anywhere. But I
mhm,
think now we're moving past that Piscean age mentality of it being really pushed down. I mean, it's we want to be at a place where it's really accessible, that inner child, and not something that is just not even thought of, and even if your mind goes there, oh, I'm being foolish, I'm being just like a kid. You don't. That's not your first thought, have that thought, or to yeah. And it seems to me that I don't know if it's the same way with every child, or but it seems to be about a certain age, though, as you start getting into society more. Maybe it is our schooling. Maybe you start getting into schooling, and you start to really have to, even whether you want to or not, to survive, to get along in our society. In the
mhm.
past, you have to push yourself out of that mentality, if for nothing else, just survival purposes, right? In
Right.
the jungle we lived in. And so, yeah, I think that there's so many things to this, but yeah, it can't be bogged down with simple one-liners, like, oh, your inner, get in touch with your inner child. Well, that's great. Yeah, we all, I'm sure everybody would love to do that, but it needs to be discussed. The parameters, there's so much more to it, right? And everybody's
Right.
story's the same yet different. Everybody learns it at a different pace. Everybody
Right.
has to go through it at a different time. And I just feel like it's amazing that we're in this time now where we can connect with people. And you never would have, in the past, you never would have met any of these people we know. You and I, nobody would have ever met, or we wouldn't have known. It just would have seemed like something that was another universe away, right?
Right.
Even down the
Right.
street. But now everything's just right out there, and becoming more out in the open. And I think it's a great thing. And when I say out in the open, that doesn't mean that everybody needs to reveal their deep, darkest laundry list of secrets to the whole world. But you know what I mean. They shouldn't feel uncomfortable by expressing something that they are feeling inside, that has to do with their innerness, right? Because that right there, when they don't take care of that, that reflects in society, and it's in everybody's best interest that it's very, very much acceptable to entertain that inner child, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm I'm getting something about the vulnerability, and for people to allow themselves to be vulnerable within whatever their limits are. And vulnerability, the truth of vulnerability is that it is incredible strength. You know, when you're strong and you're doing this whole thing that we've been taught, we're strong, right? You're hiding behind this persona of this thing.
Hmm.
True strength, as I understand and understand, is it's like you're not hiding behind anything. You're authentic with who you are,
Yeah.
and this is balanced with discernment with who you are addressing. But it's like you are authentic from what you receive, from what you are, from what is pertinent to that moment, that conversation. And um it's profound, and it's like I'm hearing it's like a signal, or I'm getting it's like this. It's an energy, it's a frequency that goes out, the vulnerability of a soul, because um it's this is this support that others can feel, that if they are in a place of receptivity to feel it and receive it. And it's this I'm hearing again support of it. And then the other thing I was getting is when you were saying being like a kid, and that the kids couldn't be like kids, that they had to put on the to survive, which, yes, yeah, that's been the system. But what I heard within me is being like a kid, and I heard very clearly being free. Being like a
Hmm.
kid is being free, is being open to express, is being you know, my childhood was different than yours. It wasn't like awesome, but it wasn't awful. It wasn't awful like yours and my loves and others I know. Um, you know, my parents went through separation, which was essentially divorce when I was 12. And for me, that was devastating for myself and my siblings. Um, my situation was different than many because my mom was a college professor. And so her income helped support us. We went from two college professors to one college professor. And it did shift things. It shifted things considerably. My mom I love my mom. My mom was an awesome mom, but she's not one of these, um, I don't know, I want to say warm and fuzzy moms, or I want to say like, what am I getting? Hippie mom type people. My mom is like a scientist, and she's very methodical about things, and she didn't really like to express things emotionally. She felt like emotions were worthless. She was very cerebral. And so one of the things that my family did a lot was we intellectualized. Um,
Hmm.
and um, before this happened, when I was younger, I mean, I was very free. And like I was telling you before we got online, there was a fire within me that was already there. And there was a knowing within me about having fun, about exploring, about just letting myself be a kid. I just somewhere within me, even then, I just let myself be, and I kind of fought pretty hard against not being able to do that. Um, and the blessing is the environment I was in. Um, didn't fight me back too hard on not letting me do that, on not letting me climb the tree and stay up in the tree forever, or lay in the grass, or any of these things I did because I was a
Yeah.
tomboy,
Right.
but it's like I as we talked about it, and as I felt it before we went online, that for me there was a fire within me. And I've said this before, it's the little one within me. She's the fire. She's the
Yeah.
fierce one, and she's the I don't give a fuckness. That's the little one.
That was
But
your that was your soul coming through, though. People want to also too with something like that. I can just hear people saying, "Well, who?" Well, then somebody must have been your influence. Was there an uncle in your life that led you to think that way or led you to feel that way? No, you were born with that. That was your soul coming through. You know what I mean? This wasn't.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and it was for a time when I was a child, it was very loud within me. And like I said to you before, and this has already been established for young girls, is I was this way until I hit my adolescence, and then at adolescence, all the voices of society and expectations of others for what a little girl should be or a young adult should be, and all this, they began to kind of close
Come
me
to.
off, is what I'm hearing. Yeah, and my
It,
channel was closed off for a time. I Even though I did journal, and I would get things when I would journal, but yeah, that was my experience. I know yours was very different, Larry, and I know
mhm.
that my loves was very different. And you know,
Varying
it's
varying degrees of difference. It's
very
yeah.
much.
I had I had material wise everything I needed, okay, and everything like that. It's just that my parents both worked nights. I was an only child. I had the things that I needed like that, but I kind of raised and had to raise myself in the mind, and I had to figure this shit out on my own, right? I had to kind of traverse a world that was where I was, around a lot of the gang, drug kind of related activity. Things of that nature, and I had the access to have that independence to where I could have everybody over on a school night really late. And once I started to get into my teenage years, like you're talking about adolescence, um I used the things that I was suffering and dealing with inside from what had happened to me earlier on with a couple babysitters, and it I used that as a way to escape. Right? It's like we all come back to the source at some point, but we move away from it. Like you were talking about, you still did
Yeah.
your journaling and stuff like that, but then society's norms take over, and you do what you do to traverse your way through that, whether it's society's definition of the right thing to do, or it's the wrong thing to do, right? And you
Right.
you you find your own way. I think what I'm trying to say is you find your own way to immerse yourself in some kind of societal standard, whether it's an accepted standard or whether it's frowned upon, but yet it's still accepted because it goes on. Um,
Right.
Yeah. So I used a lot of that to hide and not deal with the shit that had happened to me just a few years ago before that, and it's funny because when you're young and coming into your teenage years, especially until you get to about 20, it seems like your whole life has been a million years, right? And then after
Right.
that, it starts to go by in the blink of an eye. But there was so much of a world of difference between the time I was 8 years old and the time I hit, 13 or 14 years old. There was
Right.
it seemed like decades had passed, right? Especially with
Right.
stuff that I'd experienced and things that had changed in my life. So, um, and then I found drugs to cope, TV to cope. Before it was drugs, it was television. I was a television junkie when I was a real younger, child, really. And so I would use that as a way to escape my reality. And then after that, as I started to get older, then I found, and I didn't go seeking them out because I was looking for something to numb anything. I just thought it was fun at first, and then it became something to where I could just, kind of stay in the. It was my way of kind of trying to stay in what society termed, I won't say now moments, but society's definition of, I guess, being in the now moment. I was in the now moment without being in the now moment. You know what I mean? With my brain a little bit altered, but
Yeah.
yeah, and kids are resilient. Kids are tough. Kids are tough, and I think
Right.
sometimes when we feel bad for children and stuff, we're feeling bad for ourselves. That child within us, um, in unresolved issues or things that
Very
we
much.
have problems with, right? Because at their stage where they're at that particular point, they're tough and they're in survival mode too. So at the time, with a lot of times, what is going to affect them from that time is not going to be something that plagues their mind 24/7 until they get a little bit older. Um,
Hmm.
yeah,
Yes, because it's not worth it, right? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, it's not worth it, and you just can't. Who can live that way, right? Who can go on that way? And when you'll look for any kind of an alternative to escape from that. Like I said, whether it's television, whether it's food, right? Whether it becomes a sex addiction when you get into being an adolescent, whether it's, like I said, drugs or alcohol, just anything without dealing with, because you're taught to suppress those feelings for one,
Yeah.
and they say well, you're taught that, but then you're told you should, if they give a lot of contrite one-liners too. It's okay, but it's not okay. Do this, but don't do that. Especially in American culture, it's say with anything here.
Yeah.
Don't have sex till you're married, but here's this Playboy over here you can look at. It's so taboo, but don't think about it. But here it is. You
Revealing an unexplored topic within themselves.
hmm Yeah, yeah.
Right.
But
The
it's like that though.
the thing I was gonna say was yeah, I was remembering as a child I was a very loving child. Yeah, I kind of wired differently, and I even told you that there was a time in my childhood, 12, 13, 14, my mom's mom, and I told you this already, um had Alzheimer's. My mom found out she was passed out on her kitchen floor. The stove was on. I don't remember, something like that. And my grandmother then lived in Georgia, and we lived in Charlotte, about 3 hours away. And my mom went and brought her mom and moved her into our house. We had a big enough house. So grandmother went into this small bedroom, like what you would have for like a nursery or something. And mom began to take care of her mom. And I began to help mom take care of her mom, even though there were two other sisters and one brother at that time. But both my sisters, Diana, my oldest, didn't want anything to do with it. Jean sometimes helped, but overall, mom pulled on me a lot. That's just, you know, was it great? But I couldn't, it's just nature of me. I couldn't ignore it. And then I think a year later, her sister, my mom's older sister, contracted MS, multiple sclerosis. And so my mom moved her into that same room. So we're talking about a room that you might have a nursery in. You had two adults in. And I remember through ages 13 and 14, uh, helping my mom with both of them. My mom put her mom in adult daycare, and that helped a lot. Her sister, because at that time there wasn't much people could do about MS. And so I just remember helping mom clean Louise, because when a person stays laid on one side, because she couldn't move, over time she got her body got more and more stiff. And you have to rotate somebody because they start to get bed sores. And
Yeah,
so I
like
would help,
that. Yeah.
it's kind of sick, but it's the truth. So and Louise couldn't really talk. I love you, Louise. I love you. I love you, grandmother. And yeah, and my mom would help, and we put a catheter in her. That was really uncomfortable.
Oh
And
man.
you know, I remember helping my mom with Louise, and these are things that I kind of dealt with when I was an adolescent, when I was a teenager. And my younger sister will debate me on this, and I've told you this already. My grandmother died in the house. My younger sister will say she died in the hospital. I respect you, Jean. I love you, Jean. But I remember sitting there looking at my grandmother Cartledge, and I was looking in her eyes, and all of a sudden it was like life, no life, like no life, nothing. It was this thing I was looking at, with all respect to grandmother Cartledge. And I she passed. Her soul, they took her to the hospital, but she was
She'd
she
left
wasn't
her
there.
vehicle already. She'd
She
left that
wasn't
vehicle.
Yeah, she wasn't there anymore. And
Yeah.
at the time it happened, I was kind of I was hurt and shocked. And I've kind of, the older I've gotten, the more I've learned that actually was a blessing, that um you get to really see what makes life. um
Hmm.
you know a person walking in a body, you've heard before, we are energies in these bodies. We are energies in these bodies. We aren't just these physical things. These are, well, some people
Just
say meat suit, but that's not
yeah.
respectful to me. These are blessed
Yeah.
vehicles.
Yeah.
And for me, this is just part of my childhood. But each one of us is shaped by those things that happen. And they yes, they do create who we are. But the other part of that, like I was saying before, is when we're talking about the path of the child, that is that part of you that I'm hearing is always renewed. It's not just one renewing, it's a constant renewing. And then when you gave that analogy of the masculine and feminine, and it was like, what I was getting was the masculine was like the adult and the feminine was like the child. I agree with that up to a point,
Mm.
because each one, when you move into the divine feminine and the divine masculine, they're both sovereign. And then they work together to be this balanced unit, is what I'm hearing. um
Hmm.
so I feel within me, this is what I'm receiving, is it's the adult and the child, and the adult is both the masculine and the feminine. And then the child is this third creation that comes through the merging of the divine masculine and the divine feminine into the divine child. and the divine child is the seed, is what I'm getting, of the creation, or the merging of the two. Does that make sense?
Yeah, the kind of the hybrid of the two, right? And I think it's a big
Right.
point that we've certainly missed as a society, of course, up until this point, and even still, is that is true. It's the best when accentuated. It's that energy is the best of both worlds, right? But it goes back to two getting our house in order as far as defining the divine, the feminine, and the masculine, the divinity of what the trueness of it is, right? So that has to be established first in a society, and before we can before I mean not me or you, but before people can understand and really appreciate that, right? And then it harkens back to people will be like, well, to be like the child, to just be oh,
No.
yeah, but people will still find that to be, people still get caught in the terms and they don't see the river past the forest, right? They don't see even a glimmering little bit of lake. Well, hopefully they are now starting to see a little bit of lake through the wooded area, but um,
The-
it just we've been programmed to shut that off so much and to keep it bogged down, and so it becomes this inner struggle within us. That inner child, you begin to have this inner struggle with your inner child because you try to bog it down all the time at every turn of the way, right? And even you find yourself when you're starting to accept it, sometimes you find yourself, oh, that's just being silly, or that's, you try to justify every way you can to run away from it. Um,
yeah, the thing I'm getting is, I was getting something about when, and this is just what I'm receiving, people discern as they choose, but when a person is, when you're saying the child is irresponsible, the child is this, yeah, they can be. But the other thing I'm getting is that that's viewing a child and that energy through judgment, through projections of what was. And when you move into the place of discernment, which is the filtering of the heart, there's an opening that happens. There's the possibilities expand, and it's not that it's not balanced with um mm, what could be from the past experiences, but it's that those past experiences are not imprinted onto uh, the possibilities. There's awareness of those because that's discernment. There's the balance, but it's the new and the possibilities are the main focus. Does that make sense?
yeah, yeah, it does. It does. And I was thinking as you're talking there too, it's you're talking about how that never leaves us. That we never everything that we've ever done and have done is always a part of us. These are all the multidimensional layers of ourselves, right? And so no matter
Right.
how much time goes by, there's still always that, people will say stuff like, "Oh, that was a long time ago. That was a long, boy, that was a long time ago." And yet it's funny because both it was and it wasn't. I mean,
Mhm.
in some respects, everything that you've ever went through or experienced, you might say, "Well, that was a really long time ago. I was young. I was this. I was that." And that is true too. That is true. So you should give yourself a break if it's something you think is negative. But at the same time, that fun-loving person that you were, that person is always still, or that as a child,
Right.
that person is always still there within you, right? It comes back to discernment again, of,
Hmm.
of discerning those kind of energies that are coming through you, right? You can
Right.
take a little bit. I mean, Jesus Christ, even Adolf Hitler believed in healthcare for everybody, for fuck's sake. I mean, you know what I mean? So, so no, really though. I mean, there's something to be
Yeah,
taken just
I
because it was
understand.
a shitty experience. You can take something positive out of it, and I'm just getting emotional because I'm so happy with the fact that social media, for all the complaining people do about it, I mean, it has really brought the consciousness has risen yet too, but you can't do that without you can't have it be complete without some kind of technology coming with it too. So our consciousness was able to manifest this technology to where
Right.
people can interact with each other. Um, and it's a wonderful thing because you get to see all these examples, and there's no shortage of people to ask, for better or for worse. Uh, and so there's a lot of examples just to pull off of that hey, you're not alone. You know that you're not as unique as you thought you were. You're
Right.
unique as your own infinite being, but you're unique in that matter. But your situation, there are others that have been through what you have, and what maybe not as bad, some a little bit worse. You know, as far as what standards we would consider worse by. Um, and here's another thing I wanted to bring up to you. You know, when you hear a lot of successful people, they will give an emotional talk or something, and they will say, I was just a boy, or I was just a little girl that dared to dream." They should never have had to dare to dream.
Right.
You know what I mean? That should
Right.
have been something that was always
Right.
encouraged, right? Encouraged to dream, encouraged to dream. Not I just dared to dream. Like,
Right.
yeah, well, shut that off. You can think about that later. Right now, you have to think about whatever, studying for the next test, or whatever, or some little mundane thing, something, right? You know,
Yeah,
it,
you were saying that, and I was going within me to the thing I said a little while ago, which was, when the child is in the environment that is divinely intended, is what I'm getting. They're connected, and they're interacting with those inner creations, which is the dreaming and the imagining. And it's allowing these things to stretch. And then I'm getting something also about, gifts. You can call them gifts. That's what I'm getting, but they're just the things that come from a pure heart, divine state, clairaudience, clairsentience, all those things that, whatever you want to call it. To me, like I've said in other podcasts, to me, mm, when you're in a place where you're in a more open conversation with the universe and within yourself, and you're moving through things with as much faith as you connect to, and strength, and you know you're addressing that, you're in this flow, is what I'm getting. You
you're opening up to the love light frequencies, is what really I think. You're
you're
opening up
opening
to
up,
the love light.
you're opening up to that, and you're it's the dreaming, and the child is like, they're connecting with these gifts, is what I'm getting, as I'm getting something about, the children, as the children in the what we are moving into, as we all support this vision. um they they're going to connect with these gifts, they're going to connect with these what I call handshakes. These are all just different handshakes, divine handshakes. Um and they're going to connect with them more, because the dreaming that they're allowed to have, and the inner creation that happens within, and then they're inspired, and they have this energy, just like any one of us. When we dream, you have this enthusiasm to create, and create something, and bring it into the physical. And this can be anything. And I'm getting within me something now, and this isn't, with all respect to these, but isn't goals, because goals to me is a, with all respect to this, it's a cerebral process. This is
Hmm.
more than goals. This is about, creation, is what I'm hearing. Goals are an aspect of creation, but they are not necessarily completely creation. This is about moving that inner dreaming and that inner creation into the external. And part of that is that disciplining self, which is a disciple of self, and balanced with allowing the dreaming to continue. And then I'm getting something about acceptance. And there's a lot of these things that adults we may not have learned as children, but when children are allowed to be children, supported by adults, supportive, loving adults, these processes happen naturally, is what I'm getting, from the starting of the inner creation within themselves. I'm remembering something right now. So when I was a child, I did crazy things. I just played. I just loved to. And I remember something. I don't As 8, 9, 10, 11, something like that. My bed was in the corner of the room. I'm remembering this was a square room, and I had, because I always loved, part of me, I always felt like I was a textile designer in a past life, because I love to see different materials uh, against each other, to see how they look together.
Contrasted, yeah.
And so I remember, I don't know where we got it, at Goodwill or whatever, which wasn't the same Goodwill that is now. And, I had this beautiful Indian pattern type sari, is that what I'm thinking? And then I had like, and I took it, I remember in the corner of my room, and I tacked it here and tacked it here, and I draped it. And then I would have different cloths.
Yeah.
And I would look, and I would lay in my bed, and I would look up at these two different colors and the patterns and how they would look against each other. I did, yeah, and then over
Back when
time, I
Goodwill was
remember
Goodwill.
I put,
Yeah,
I
back
put
when Goodwill was Goodwill, right? Yeah, I mean it was
Goodwill,
different.
yeah,
Yeah, it was different.
not this monopoly it is now, but
No.
yeah. And I remember also at some point, um and this was before these things, this was just me, and then I put another tack on the other corner, and at some point, I remember taking my stuffed animals and starting to toss them into that little pocket that was above my bed. It wouldn't have, it was way up, right?
Right.
But I'm just connecting with the things I did as a child, and then, you know,
It resonates. No, it resonates really. Yeah, and you were now moment living.
I was very much so, yeah. And then I did something, and this is very, very intimate to me, but you know, it, it it's my child. It's one of the things that I love to do. Was in my mom's yard. My mom had the yard that our house was on, and then she had another lot next door. And I would love to go into. We called it the dog yard, and we had it was a. I call it. I think I told you this before, Larry. I called it. It's upside down hill. So it was a divot in the dirt. It was about like this down,
Hmm.
and I would love. And this was when I was like 5 or 6. I love to go, and there was usually weeds because we never could get that yard mowed all the way. Mom had to bribe us and threaten us and all kinds of stuff because the lawnmower wouldn't work, or because mom, there were 4 of us, and at one point there were 5 of us, and it was mom against 5 of us, and mom did her best.
You broke her down. You guys broke her down.
No, 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 no. Mom's thing wasn't like anger. Mom could use anger, but some moms use anger. My mom used guilt, and she wasn't even Catholic, but guilt was a really strong one that my mom used. That one
I
reached
bet.
me and reached all of us, right? So I loved to be as a kid, and I would go down to the upside down hill, and I would, and see, that's a child in me. She's saying upside down hill right now. I feel it. And I'd lay right there. And as I laid in that upside down hill, my head was level, um, slightly below the grass around me, and I got to kind of see the weeds around me like a fairy would. Does that make
Yeah,
sense?
yeah, it
It was
does. Yeah.
I loved it. I'm pretty sure I stayed there, and I would do that, and I'd look up at the sky and look at the clouds for hours. We didn't have cell phones. We didn't, not trying to sound
No,
like an old fart, whatever, but it
no.
was just like this incredible entertainment of the clouds, and then like all the things you see at the weeds at eye level, not above them, at eye level, and I just remember that being one of my favorite things in the world. And these are things that, like, children, when children are allowed to be children, beautiful stuff,
Absolutely. It's
and
amazing what we could do. It's amazing if we really, as a society, emphasize that and really went in and let them explore it. I mean, I can only imagine now that I'm thinking about it, all the great inventions that could be thought. I mean, there's all kinds of possibilities
yes,
that would benefit society as a whole by doing this. You know what I mean? Not just the child, but the whole society.
for sure. And then the other thing I'm getting is that about renewal, about new for the adult, about the child, allowing yourself to be. I don't even know if I like the word childish. I mean, you could say childish, but that has a negative connotation,
Yeah,
unfortunately, which
it does.
sucks.
Yeah,
That really
it's up.
pisses me off, because I don't normally say shouldn't, because to me, I don't like to should on myself or anybody else. But that, you're right, divinely intended, lovingly intended. It's ideal to be childish with the adult. It's ideal. And I say that as a new expression of this beautiful word, which isn't intended to have this bullshit that's attached to it. And so to me, as the adult allows themselves to be like renewed and to connect with that child and be childish and to be new. The phrase within me is not as much to be like a child. Well, be like a child is beautiful. I like that phrase,
Hmm.
but childish is like this loaded thing, which pisses me off.
Absolutely.
This loaded thing, right?
Absolutely.
So it's to be new, not old, to be new, to try things new, to think new. And all of this is, you know, as I always say with every podcast, this is about the heart and its flow. And, my mission for anybody that doesn't know it is to be here, to be with others, to assist them as they're called, even just
Hmm.
to be in the podcast, to be a reawakener of this conversation of the heart, which,
Hmm.
it's the conversation that happens between the sacred mind, the sacred heart in our blessed body vehicles, which I receive as the voice of the soul. And to me, once that conversation is began, then everything moves into divine order, because the sacred heart is put into its proper place and it leads. It's in the background, but it leads. And it's like, that's how the new comes, is that you're allowing yourself to wonder. You're allowing yourself to dream. You're allowing that child within you, if you want to call it the child within you, or we can call it anything that is about you not bringing your same shit forward. About
Hmm.
you giving yourself space to create and to be, and I'm even getting to have joy despite anything happening around you, to have joy. And then the other thing I thought about, talking about this before, Larry, is like Viktor Frankl, man's search for meaning and everything that he went
Hmm.
through, and yet he was like, you are free in your mind, you are free to think. And what I would qualify that with is, when you connect with that space and you allow yourself to feel joy and you feel this expansion, it's because you are then engaging the heart. You are then in the full conversation. You're not just up here. Um, that's what I receive. It's the,
Yeah. We're
Larry.
connecting. We're connecting the dots here. I mean, there was a time where a lot of this stuff, like people would be more hung up on the news. So like we heard in the past, like in the decades past, well, I'm working on my inner child. I'm working on, I mean, I think people were more hung up on they were still, even though that's what they said they were working on, but they still weren't getting it. And they were still really
Yeah.
searching for something. I think now that we're in a time where we're kind of been going through the past few decades, really, this evolution, I
Right.
call it an evolution revolution, this evolution revolution of humanity and moving into past the Piscean age. um, these things are starting to become more like just natural intuitive that we need to do, right? There's that first step of now naturally intuitive. We're doing it. It's not looked at as a chore, like I got to go do this. And I'm more hung up on the structure. We harken back.
Right.
We talked about the school systems, right? So it's
Right.
really about the structure, and it's not even really about the meat of the matter. It's about the making sure that structure is just what it is, right? And the rest of it is just whatever. And then it's so funny when you when you really dig deep into something like that, though. There really the structure, right? There really is no structure in it, even though it's a structure on the outside. There is nothing really. It's hollow. And I think now people are really starting to understand that, hey, there's this internet within me, and I don't need to go do telekinesis for 18 hours straight to figure it
Right.
out.
Right.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I
Right.
just feel like this stuff is becoming more something that's acceptable, and it's not just some one liner, because in the past, let's face it, one, society wasn't ready for it. Two, the people that were saying it may had a good intention, but they really didn't. They were kind of just thinking it was the right thing, but without knowing it. You can know the beginning of a movie, Carolyn, and you can know how a movie ended, but if you don't know all the stuff that happened in between, you're really missing a lot. And is it going to change your
Yeah.
overall opinion on something? Maybe not, but it'll give you something to really think about, to consider, right? um yeah, that's why I'm more considered with scenario, the end and the beginning. I'm more considered concerned with what the meat of the matter is, right? So, I
Right.
know for my own knowing, and it'll help me be a more well-rounded person than to just know how it started. And then, hey, there's the end. But it's such a long journey along the way, and so many rewards
For
along the
sure.
way to grasp at and to glean from. And I think a lot of people, is it going to change your overall thoughts? A lot of times, no. At the end of the day of it, but it will make it seem more interactive and not just something that's just a yes or a no. There's all kinds of the big difference between there's a lot of layers between a yes and a no. Between
Right.
a yeah.
And then what I was getting is, you know, what is healing to me is not necessarily healing to you.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, there's similarities, but that's what to me, that's the same kind of thing as like the meat in the middle, the center, the core part of that is the same, but how you get to it for each you and for me is very different because we have different energies and yeah, it's
There's
very
more than one
different.
road to Oz. You mean there's more than one way into Oz, girl. There's more than one road to take, isn't there?
It's completely right. Hold on, I'm writing that down. Um, and yeah, there's complete, and it's all, there is more than one road. The place where we all join is the fact that at some point we all have to become renewed. We all have to. I'm actually hearing drop the baggage.
Yeah.
We all have to. We all have to allow transformation. And because if you don't allow transformation, I'm hearing then that's a slow death. And so if you're choosing life and you're choosing to allow yourself space to exist in your life and have a voice and be, I don't know, I'm hearing be relevant, but you're also, it's about being, honoring self, and you truly are aligning with that. You're not just giving it a bunch of lip service. You're not just saying it to some people,
Right.
talking about what you were saying, working with your inner child or any of that stuff. It's not a bunch of phrases. If you're actually giving yourself space, honoring your space, and you're holding those boundaries firm, not to block out, but also to give yourself that sacred existence in your
Yeah.
life, right? That's
Right.
about that's about transformation. That's about exploring what's happened, because ultimately what happens is as you explore that and you process that, then at some point you move into transformation, and the transformation is about the new you, and it's also about allowing in other parts of you to communicate, to be present, which can be the child, but it also can be the you as a teenager, the you as an adolescent, the you in
Mm-hmm.
that place where you were not so conditioned, is what I'm hearing,
Yep.
uh by those experiences. And like we were saying, earlier, it's for every one of us, that point demarcation line is what I'm hearing of what happened, whatever it is that if you have a very traumatic childhood, there was something before that,
Yeah.
even if it was in the womb, is what I'm also hearing as well.
Yep.
And that seed exists, and that's about the transformation and the new for you,
The
Larry.
new thing, yeah, absolutely. I got to thinking. I jokingly brought up, there's more than one way into Oz, but I got to thinking. I've always thought my whole life that as far as that goes, right? It's like, okay, well, they got there and they got what they got, right? And then it turns to find out that they had it the whole time. Okay, we know that part. We know that they
Yeah.
had it the whole time, right? And I always thought, God, that big shiny bastard walked all that way for a plastic heart. He already had a heart and soul, but all he got was a plastic heart. But you know what? There was so much to be learned from that journey, right? Right, that journey that they did go on. They got to meet friends, and they got to have an experience, right? So they got to have an experience to go from that. So I don't think I think to me that's a good analogy. Is that, and I never really looked at that movie that way. That okay, I thought, God damn, what a bunch of bullshit. They had to do all this for that, and they already had it the whole fucking time. That's been my cynical nature on that movie the whole time. That big shiny bastard, that goofy bastard, walked that whole way. and all he got was a plastic heart that he could have won at the fair by throwing a dart to a balloon.
And you are able to perceive it that way because of you have allowed you to be new again. You've allowed yourself to look at things again and see how you see them differently. You've shifted your view, your perspective. That's the beautiful, beautiful thing about change. When you make changes that will serve you in the long run. When they
I
first happen, they can be like beyond
Yeah,
traumatic.
I think the reality that hold on, I got to make sure TikTok is still on here. It wants me to drag a puzzle piece. Here, I'm being a child. It wants me to drag a piece of a puzzle to line it up. There, yeah. What I was thinking was this whole dang time, I thought to myself about that. Okay, I thought, yeah, okay, well, but see, then I got to thinking, okay, well, they all had it within the whole time, and see, that's the beauty of it. They all had it within. They didn't need to go through all that. But then now I'm thinking, yeah, they did. But look at what. There's so many things that weren't touched on that they got out of that experience, right? For
Right.
walking that yellow brick road or whatever, the tie-dyed brick road in my case, but that's a whole nother story. Yeah, but they got to have that experience and meet people and that experience and bond, and they never, if they would have already known that they had that, it would have never taken place, and Judy Garland wouldn't be Judy Garland, right? But
Larry, hold on 1 second. I'll be right back.
yeah, okay. Then I'll take this opportunity. Then you're tuned into the Conscious Conversations show with Carolyn&Larry Roberts and Larry Locken, coming to you from the Oregon coast overlooking the Pacific Ocean. Carolyn is down deep in the heart of Texas in San Antonio. They say everything's bigger in Texas, but I've seen the Alamo and it doesn't look that big. It looks like a little hut, actually, people. So if you're planning on going on vacation down there, actually, you should hit Carolyn up. Carolyn would love to take you all around the finer, greater San Antonio area. Even the Riverwalk, they've got a beautiful Riverwalk. It looks much better. I'm sure it's much better and cleaner than the one in Italy. I mean, I know I'd rather see it, personally, but that could be just the American in me. But you can find Carolyn at Allowing the Light on Instagram. We're trying to get her onto TikTok, ladies and gentlemen. We're working on it. So, don't tell her I told you that, but we're trying to get her on TikTok. Yeah, and you can find her at Allowing the Light also as a Facebook page, right? But you can find me, Larry Locken, at Larry Locken social media outlets. It tells you every page. Oh, hi, Carolyn. Hey, Carolyn. Hey, we were just talking about you. Hey, how
Yeah,
you doing?
I heard that.
Yeah, how great you are and everything. Yes, yes. And hi, everybody in TikTok world. Hello. Yeah, TikTok. And I finally figured out, I want people to know on TikTok, though, real quick, is that I finally figured out when you say, I get some people that ask to join the conversation, and I didn't know if that just comes up because of their profile or what it is. But yes, now I do understand now. I was taught that, yes, if we accept that, you can come on in and kind of interact with us. And that's something that Carol and I have kicked around. And I'm sure a lot of you, I know that everybody out there listening has led a perfect life and they have not had any of these issues with growing up. It was all, peaches, and every day was Friday at 5 and your birthday, and has growing up. We understand this.
Right.
Right, right. So why were you gone so long? What happened? Everything okay? The world didn't blow up, did it?
No, I'm back. I was not gone long. I think I was gone like maybe 20 seconds. And no, don't expect me to escort you around San Antonio. I heard that.
She's not a tour guide. Yeah, Carolyn's already seen it, and believe me, I guess the Alamo is not the big stadium that apparently the brochure said it was. Yeah,
You would think I had gone to that. I've driven by it because it's actually a very small space. I haven't stopped because it's downtown and parking's a pain. And it's right there. It's gonna come up. It's gonna come up just like when I used to live in Phoenix. You think I went to the Grand Canyon multiple times? Nope.
yeah,
I think I went once or twice living in
yeah.
Phoenix 10 years. You know?
Is
Sedona,
that by
I
your
think
choice? Is that by your choice, or did you just not want to? I mean, did you just,
no,
just
because when you're living there, when you're living in a place, most people, I don't know, maybe you figured this out or you've already done
Yep,
this.
I
When you're
think I know
living
where you're
someplace
going.
and something's right there, you take
Yep,
it for
that's the
granted. You
ocean.
don't take for
Oh,
granted
absolutely.
like how many times did I go to Sedona? I think I went to Sedona 4 or 5 times. If I lived in Phoenix now, which I don't want to move, but if I did, I'd go to Sedona far more often. It's so beautiful. Grand Canyon was a pain, and they didn't have some of the things they had then, because we're going back to the early 2000s, or even late 90s.
I
But
don't.
yeah, it's not stuff you think about, here in Texas, I've seen some things, but Texas is flipping huge. So there's some
Oh,
things I
wow, yeah.
haven't seen, because I just don't feel like driving a day in that direction to go see whatever until it's time. you know?
The world's biggest mounded dirt. I know. No, I knew where you were going with it right away because I knew, and I was foaming at the mouth because I get it about the ocean too. I live right on the Oregon coast in that indention. If you look at a West Coast map,
Oh, I love that.
we're the furthest west you can get on the continental U.S. And I haven't been. I could go there. I could drive there any day I wanted to. I'm 15 minutes in
Go,
traffic from the beach, and I haven't been in 6 years.
go, 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 go.
I should. People in the
Every
Midwest
day's a
get
gift.
this, man.
Go. What's that?
I said, I've talked to people in the Midwest. They kind of laugh it off, but some people have really got kind of irritated. I'm like, yeah, but you guys get to be in that big flat landlocked where all you can see is miles and miles of flat land and there's
Okay,
no
okay,
water. It's so safe for you.
okay. Wait. That depends on where you live in Texas. If you live in is it East Texas, West
Oh,
Texas?
yeah,
Yes. But
I'm
if
at the
you like,
Midwest.
I'm in Central Texas, which unfortunately is one of the fastest growing areas in the country, if not the fastest growing in the area in the country. And
Yep.
we don't have flat here, not like that. We this is more like, I'm from Charlotte
Right
originally, and in
on.
Charlotte, you have something called the Piedmont, which is, it's the ground is there's hills, not huge hills, but there's hills. That's what you got here. And there's, I don't want to bring people here. We're good. Stay where you are.
Yeah, no, I
We
know.
got
We're saying the
trees.
same thing out of Oregon. We're in the same boat. I've got people here that have been for years now trying to tell them, don't tell people how nice it is out here. They don't, but how can you hide it now? But I mean, but San Antonio is, I've been monitoring San Antonio actually since, I don't know, the late 80s because I was a geek. I was really into, the populations of major metropolitan areas in the
Yeah.
country, and Texas is one of my big things with Houston, Dallas, and of course San Antonio and Austin, and then the smaller cities below that come into the forefront more. I don't know, Amarillo, maybe. Goddamn, Amarillo seems like that would be in the middle of nowhere. But
Dallas,
yeah,
Fort Worth. That's another area growing.
yeah,
Yeah.
I've noticed the northern accent, the southern accent has really dissipated even in my lifetime a lot more out of Texas. Even though the other day I was talking to Carolyn the other day, and Carolyn had a total Texas accent. I was like, "Are you got a cold or something?" You know, I'm like, "God damn, it must fluctuate sometimes." It
I
just,
guess.
yeah, you can pick it up. I mean, my cousin moved to Arkansas for 2 years, and when she was 15, came back at 17, and she sounded like an Okie from Muskogee.
Okay.
Well, I mean, an Arkie from Badarky. And it took forever for her to get rid of the accent. But I think that more with television too. I've noticed like whenever I see anything out of Dallas or anything like that, it seems like I don't hear a lot of that Southern accent anymore. So people are becoming more versatile, and people are going, where their heart is desiring them to go. It may, for whether it's a career wise or wherever, the world is becoming smaller, thankfully, but yet we're going through it's a crazy time to live in both externally and internally right now. It's a really, but you could say
Yeah.
that about any time frame, but we're really living through it right now. It's like I was talking to you the other night, Carolyn, about living through the Vietnam War. It's like my parents, when the damn thing started, they were learning their ABCs. They were pushing 30 by the time we were done with it.
Yeah.
And plus time
You,
moves slower then.
you went,
Time moves
you
slower.
went down that dark pit. Yeah, I know. You and I talked about that, and
It's just different times, different eras, right? But I mean, it all
yeah,
coincides with each
and the
other. I
myth.
think, yeah, a lot of people thought back then too it was the age of Aquarius starting, the dawning of it. People didn't realize. I think people got hung up that it was going to be next year. I didn't think they thought it was going to be another 50 years, but that's just how it goes. Time is fluid, and time, really, our lifetimes are just a blink of an eye as far as if you want to talk about illusionary time goes, right? And that's why I think it's so important back to this topic that we learn to, what really at the end of the day, though, as far as the inner child goes, what do you got to lose by embracing it? I mean, it look we're in the position probably we are now as a society for not embracing it, but then I look back on it, the energy was so dense. How did I don't even, I'm not even sure people knew to do it. It's, you know what I mean. It
No,
just
they didn't. The thing I keep getting, I was getting this last night or earlier today, or I don't know, see like times like what, um, is the sheer amount of things that and these are external, but these are also, I don't know. Okay, so they're internal, but they're also external, and I'm not even talking about the traditional stuff people are thinking of external. I mean, I'm talking about like, okay, so right now we're in the full moon in Sagittarius, and
Hmm.
there, and I'm not an astrology expert. I'm just telling you what I've connected with is, so this is really monumental. And then on top of that, it's also because there's all these astrological alignments happening together, which
Yeah,
I
it's a
guess
reality. Yeah.
they haven't happened together like this. This is pretty unprecedented. That like it's like and to me, excuse me, how do I say this? Well, to me, when you speak of the divine is it's an energy in all things, including astrology, including the alignment of the planets, including full moon, everything. Nothing is excluded, right?
No,
That's
nothing.
that. And so to me, it's like you got this, and then you got the oh my God. I mean, we have to talk about like what is this? G whatever solar flares, G something solar
Empath.
storm, you
Yeah,
know,
the
we've been feeling
geomagnetic
it.
storms. Yeah.
Oh my God. I mean, go outside, like it's not here today. It's overcast here today, but a couple days ago, you're sitting out in the sun and you're like, okay, this isn't too bad. 10 minutes later, you're like dripping sweat. Oh my God, this is really hot,
Oh
and
man, I bet.
I know others felt it. I saw somebody have a video and they were talking about it. It's like the sun, the light, the energy was so potent. It was
The
like,
Yeah, the central sun, the great Alcyone, the Pleiades, is beating through our
wow.
sphere, and that Solaris is beating through the sun, and it's
Yeah.
adding a lot of love light frequencies coming in,
Oh
and
my God.
they're helping humanity. And this is all. I think we still get to a point where we want to everything wants to be external, whether it's God. Okay, it's outside of me, this is an external, but no, everything is within you and it's without you, like that universe
Yep.
you're looking at. Yes,
Yep.
it's a holographic universe you're looking at, but it's also a reality universe that you're looking at. And I think people have a trouble with the
Yep.
concept right there that it's both. People have trouble with that concept. They want one thing to be either this or that, and usually it's the third option, right, or of some sort with
Which
most
is
things.
about duality, that it has to be this or this, that
Yep.
in truth it's like you begin to expand and you're like, well, it is this, and it is this, and it could be this one too, and
Yeah.
there's really nothing wrong with it not being locked in this place and locked in this place
Right.
and locked in this place. And to me, what I'm getting is the bottom line on that is it's about moving into unconditional love, which
Yeah.
has no conditions. Now I'm getting something about no conditions. And so when you're in that place where you're opening up to the unconditional love, which is about the new, it's about the new, that's about new start, unconditional love, then you're looking at things and the conditions and the
Everything,
perspective that you used to see things is like huge. It expands.
everything, Carolyn, everything ancient is modern again. You ever heard the thing? Everything old is new
Yeah.
again. Everything ancient is modern again.
Yes. Yes,
Yeah.
definitely. And I've been getting this analogy within me. Hi, babe. I've been getting
Hey,
this
Eric.
analogy about I don't know why it's a visual I've been seeing in my third eye. I've been seeing like this diamond. I've been seeing like this
Yep.
multifaceted, really bright diamond, and that each one of us is looking at this diamond from this view or this view or this view. I love you, babe. For this view or this view, and that it was like I think I was listening to our favorite person, Paul White Gold Eagle, and in
Shout
one of
out.
the we were talking about the sacred scribes, and
Yep.
I was like, I was getting this visual. I'm like, oh yeah, they're sharing their truth and they're seeing it from this one, that particular angle of the diamond right there, and then this person is seeing it over here, and it's all about moving into this place as I'm receiving about unconditional love, which is the new. It is the open. It is the you could even say the next. And
Was that
it's like
was that his
that.
work? Was that his work, or was that from the divine
No,
star
no,
of the diamond
that's
light?
not his work. That was what I was getting within myself with this diamond thing. Nobody, I haven't seen anybody talk about this, but I keep seeing
No,
within me like a, it's like a disco ball, but it's not round.
spherical more, or
It's like oval. It's like an
it's
egg kind of.
oval. Is it an oval spherical kind of? Is it oval? So it's oval. That's kind of what I would get wondering if it was oval. Okay.
Yeah, it's got all these reflectors is what I'm seeing. I'm probably gonna have drawing this thing,
Yeah, please do. Yeah, please do.
and and everybody is seeing reality from this mirror or this one or this one or this one or and but it's all the same source,
Yeah,
um and none of them are wrong. They're all right.
yeah.
um
And I notice less people are doing that more. Less people are coming up and saying that their way is the only way and this is the way. I mean, and now,
yeah,
I don't even get mad anymore when I hear it. It's like, how can I mean, I think somebody's putting me on if they come up with that. Well, this is
yeah,
how it is. Okay, all right.
right. Hi, babe.
Hey, yo, E, what's up, yo, E? The E, the E's holding up in that weather. I
Oh,
take it down there. You guys have it bad. It's good. It's really the solar flares. I imagine you feel them more too with the heat mixed, and it's getting to be that time of year.
it's like, so I mean, it's not bad today, thank you God. It's overcast. It's Zoe, go lay down. He just let in Zoe, half lab, half pit. um so yeah, it's been kind of bad. I mean, but we've had
Yeah,
this rain for like the last, we had it today, we've had it, well, we got it today, so far today. We had it yesterday, I think we had it day before that. But like, I'm trying to remember what today is. So earlier this week, late last week, is when we had the sun. And it wasn't just like this, just like the Alcyon, right? It wasn't this sun, it was like this sun.
oh God, like light in your eyes. Yeah, yeah,
It was
right, right,
like
yeah.
sun. And I love it because I love, like, light. I love natural light. I can't get enough of it. But I could only go out for a little bit, and I did come back in. One was the mosquitoes, but at some point they weren't bad. It's just, maybe it's the intensity. Is that it? The intense energy or something? I would be like,
Mhm.
okay, I gotta go back in now, which was just weird for me. But
What did it do to you? Did it tire you out? What was it like? Was it just like it?
I had to find a distraction. It's weird because
Yeah,
usually I like to go out and eat the sun. And I've
yeah.
even heard something I was in recently that said we actually need 3 hours of sun a day. But my thoughts within me are that was given when we had that other sun, whatever that other sun, not this sun. This sun,
No,
I don't think, with
n-
all respect to you, you can be out there 3 hours. There's no judgment. I'm just feeling within myself because the energy of
there's
this
no,
is not the energy of this one. This
no, much
one,
more intense. I don't know how many times more, but much more.
it's like you could be out there 20 minutes. You're like, oh, mom, I'm good. I'm
I know,
fueled
and
up.
paranoid people will chalk it up to, oh, it's this or it's that. It's a bad thing. It's really coming. It's going to burn out. No, it's not. That's not what it is. This thing is being backed up by all kinds of cosmic energies.
Yeah. Oh, God. Yeah.
Flooding Earth this time, right? And it's just it's divine, and we are all the divine. We're all a quantum entanglement of one little dot, that is multiplied, manifested into many different creations, and continues just go and go and go, and it just goes on, and it won't ever stop at any break of dawn. I mean, it's just going to keep going, and we really have a positive. We're in some things right now, but we really have a positive future ahead with everything, with the creativity. I think the creativity, especially of the young people, is going to come into the forefront
Yeah.
because mainly of who they are, and plus being more accepting as a society and letting them embrace those feelings. Plus, we're not going to have any choice to anyway. They're going to do it whether we want to or not. So, I mean,
Yep.
it's just how it is, right? It's just a matter of how long, see,
Did
the
you think?
vibration of the planet is picking up. And the
Oh yeah.
vibration, it's all upon humanity as far as where we go with this, because the more people that wake up, the more the vibration will uptick, right? And the quicker the planet the moves and the quicker, that's why you have to be prepared to be in a higher dimension. Like, it takes work and
Yeah.
grounding, because you're moving at a quicker pace. You're spinning round and round and round, but yet when you're
Right.
accustomed to that, it's normal to you. It just feels like it's normal. But if you're not ready or used to that, you'll feel like your head's spinning, and the vibration will be too loud for you to handle. It'll be the loudest sound you never heard. That's what I always call vibration. It's the loudest sound you never heard.
That's a good point. Yeah. The thing I was getting was and that they are supported for that creativity, or that it's coming, that more and more are. And I was getting the trickle down thing of like, because those that are 30 came in this time, and those that are 20 came in this time, and those,
Mhm.
and that it's like that frequency is getting higher and higher, and that means that they're aligning more, each generation is aligning more and more with the divine truth. And
Yep.
it's beautiful, because it's like, think about um
Each half
those,
generation, there's been about a flip every
it's
10 years. So yeah.
it's beautiful, because you think about those that are like 30 and they're having children, or they've had children, and those children are, and I'm like, yeah, because these things that you and I saw, when we were younger, and oh no, that's a no, no, oh no, no, children, no, 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 no. And now it's like, fuck yeah,
Exactly.
children, yeah, let them do
Y-
that. Yeah,
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
because
Exactly.
that parent that's backing them up, well, one, I'm getting is an old soul. And they're like, you know what? Yeah, I can't, I'm not going to be a helicopter parent. I'm going to, I'm here with my child, but I'm going to let them explore this to an extent. I'm right here with them, and I want to do it with them. They're not going to be alone, or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
They're
what
not
I'm getting
they're
is,
not either going to be a hard ass or be in denial. You had in past generations, either it was a scenario of they were a hard ass, or it was just a ignorance is bliss. My child could do no wrong. It was either that was that duality, right? It was either
yeah,
that kind of mentality, right? But now it's more of a I want to be with my child. And I feel like our generation, Carolyn, about there was like the first generation that was more in tune with their children. Even though it seems like we've had more issues with our children, but more in tune with it than versus say your parents and their parents, right? I mean,
yeah, um,
but your
yeah,
parents are different. Your parents are kind of, we've talked about this before. They're kind of in that halfway between the hippie and the World War II generation. They're kind of tweeners between those two eras. You know what I mean? They're kind of that's a different kind of a energy. And
yeah.
I've met a few others like that. They're kind of in that Korean War type of that 50s type of, yeah, it's not really the World War II generation, and they're not near as young yet to be a part of the hippie. They're the very first of the baby boomers. You know what I mean? That weren't part of that. Yeah, they're kind of stuck in that middle paradigm there.
The I keep getting this visual within me, and I'm like trying to see where it's going, but they just showed me this one visual, which is like the 1950s and those children, and it was like they're showing me this energy of like this straight line, and then
Yep.
and slowly as the generations progressed, the line wasn't as straight. Maybe the line was diagonal, and maybe the line was,
Mhm.
it wasn't these walls, and it's like, and the reason why these uh 30s 20, the reason why the children they're bringing up, and not all of them, it's, you're on earth, so there's variations everywhere, right? But there's more and
Mhm.
more trickle down theory, 100th monkey thing is what I'm getting within me, that those parents, most likely, they're old souls,
Yep.
they're more connected to that inner work,
Yep.
and they know the validity of it at a younger age, and there's great truth to that,
Oh,
because um you know yeah, I didn't know that shit in my 20s. I had an idea about it, but I was
mhm.
too connected to my own bullshit, my own stuff I was dealing with.
Me
But
too. Me
it,
too. Me too. And I
it
think that's common too for our. Yep. Yep. Exactly.
yeah, and I what I've seen now is that they're, it's not that they don't have problems, they don't have struggles, because we all do, but
Hmm.
it's like they have this quiet awareness is what I'm hearing within me.
Oh, big time. I mean,
Yeah.
it's so obvious if you're in tune to even a lick. It's so obvious that they do. I
Yeah.
mean, you
It's
can't.
so
It's
awesome.
undeniable. Every time I deal with somebody in that age group, it's same. Yeah, it's the same thing.
It's
Um,
awesome. It's like,
yeah, it really is awesome. I mean, it's a reality. I mean, if it's not a reality, it's part of the biggest coincidence that ever happened in the cosmos ever. I mean, which would be
which
even more
means,
creepier. But
yeah.
it is really phenomenal, and I'm glad to see that the rhetoric has kind of toned down too, as far as criticizing kids for, though they got their nose stuck in a this, or they got their, every generation has bitched about,
Yeah.
I'm glad that we've kind of gone more away from we've gone away from bitching about, oh, that next generation, boy, these kids these days. Well, I'll tell you, these kids these days, boy, the world's getting crazy these days. No, the world's fucking advancing. With that kind of mentality, we would have never gotten out of a cave, or gotten off the horse and buggy. It just, I always harken back, and I say that about every episode. I have a little dichotomy about that, that we would have
About the
never.
horse and buggy.
Yeah, yeah, well, yeah, it's something like that. You know what I mean? Oh, that radio, those kids, you hear that thing they're listening to, Carolyn? There's voices coming out of that thing. Oh my God, they're demons being summoned on the
Don't
AM
don't
dial.
play that record backwards because it's demon worship, devil worship. That's
I
the
mean,
stuff I
people
heard.
thought. Well, look how far we have come. People thought this shit though.
Yeah,
When
they
all it
did.
says is, I buried Paul, I buried Paul, I buried. No, it was cranberry sauce, cranberry sauce, cranberry sauce. I buried Paul, I buried Paul, I buried Paul. Yeah, I'm gonna put that there so you can find it, so you can hear it, and it'll be so obvious that we did it. I mean, the whole
You're
the
you're
whole the whole reasoning is
you're
ridiculous.
you're making me think of something else I dealt with. Okay, so living in Charlotte in my what was I? All the way up until late 20s, and living. So, but there they had Jim and Tammy Baker, and like the masses
Oh,
know about.
okay, but the
So
PTL. Are you going to tell us a PTL story? I'll be quiet. I'm getting
PTL.
the
So
PTL
okay, when I
story.
was a child, so this is something I'm remembering. My siblings, especially my younger sister, will remember that we had the record. And with all respect, it was the it's the extreme of the PTL. Later in the beginning, they were like, well, they were worshipped, right? It was because I'm
Oh God,
remembering the
no.
song "Let the Sun Shine In," basic with I remember listening to that when I was like a toddler, and we played the record, and yeah, and then it didn't happen until I was a teenager, and the truth of PTL came out, and the extremity, and people didn't really, before it was like this whole, it was like, oh yeah, that's Jim and Tammy Baker. Jim deserves to have this, that was.
Jim deserves all the wealth and riches of 1,000 virgins
Did you know? Yeah, it
in
was
his
this whole
hair. Yeah,
conversations about
no.
did you know that there are gold faucets in his bathroom and blah blah blah.
Yeah, old, yeah,
That
old
was the
15,
whole
15
conversation
second.
then,
Yeah, he was a
and then
15-second man. Old Jim, old
came
Jim
into
Baker,
the
Mr.
masses.
60-second
What's
man.
that?
Oh, me, old
What,
Jim Baker, what a study is a Mister. He'll rock him, sock him all minute long. He's a 60-second man. Yeah, the creativity. And, Tammy was all of about 5'2", and I think about 10'5" around.
and
But I mean,
and
that's the only story.
and Tammy's eyelashes. Yes, yes. We all knew. All of those in Charlotte, all those in
So
that area
so
around
gaudy,
there.
like, oh, it creepy, and their shirts just this fake weird gold, and these
So
gold eyebrows. It reminds me of this
I
guy Benny Hinn, who has a star glued to his forehead.
so I'm saying this because conditions like this, for me, what I receive, they don't exist anymore. From the
No,
moment that you'd have this extremity of what he has gold faucet, really, and some people might be like, yeah, in the past they might have been passive about it. Now they'd be like, well, isn't he supposed to be a preacher? Where is he putting that
yeah,
money?
and even still, what the fuck?
People
Even if
would.
he wasn't, that is just it's sorry. I mean, I'm not judging, but it is strange, especially when you consider there's people starving in the world. Just everything considered, the mentality, it speaks to the epitome of self-centeredness.
It was. I'm bringing it up because it was the extremity that was accepted then, and now it's like these extremities, these things that are so completely out of balance and don't make sense, and the sense I'm getting is not logical. I'm saying I'm getting sense in the heart, and it's like people are making this connection and being like, that's not
Well,
That's not
Jesus,
right.
well,
Something's
Jesus Christ! Right
off.
after you got out of high school, Carolyn. Right after you got out of high school, we were really close to having Pat Robertson be the goddamn Republican nominee for president of the 700 fucking club. I mean, Mister. Oh, somebody in Chicken Switch, Arkansas, is having a neck ache right now, and they've been having it for 25 years, and oh, they have to wear a pillow between their shoulder and their neck, and oh, they're
That's
getting scared.
$200.
Yeah, right. And then a month later, lo and behold, this black and white video would show up on the 700 Club. I had to
Still
walk
there?
around. Yeah, are you still there? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
It must be the Lord switching us off. But I mean, then a month later, it showed somebody with a pillow between their neck and their shoulder. I had to walk around all my life long with a pillow between my. Oh, it was so
It's
embarrassing. And I heard Pat's words, and Pat cheered me that day. And Pat in the 700 Club, and yeah, I mean, really, this guy was a liquor salesman. I mean, the hypocrisy. I
right,
mean, this guy was a liquor
right.
salesman, and then you had Jimmy Swaggart around that time, screwing
Oh god.
around. Yeah,
Yeah,
you're right, right. But I read this article back then. I got to say this real quick. It was talking about when Pat Robertson was running for president, and you had Swagger, and you had Jim and Tammy Faye. But it was ranking those pastors as far as the conservative party was ranking those pastors to where they were and giving them rankings. And where do you think where do you think Jesse Jackson fell on that? But and he wasn't even
yeah.
on the list. He was way down below. They had him listed integrity wise, way down below those people because it's like it had nothing to do with he was black. I'm sure.
No, sure, no, nothing, not that. But the other thing I'm getting is it's like this extreme stuff that we used to deal with. It's like, and this is
Mhm.
what I was getting really strongly was, um,
It was bullshit.
yeah, but I'm getting this thing right now, something about drama. I was getting something about drama. This drama that used to fuel people, that's this external drama that used to fuel people is shifted. Like the energy shifted, and it's like energetically now, many people are like forced to point within themselves. That's what I'm getting. And
Mhm.
so it's like that's the reason why we don't have this festering dramas that you and I are talking about. Doesn't mean that some don't exist, still exist. Yes, they do, but not like they used to.
I
It's
bet in
because
Texas.
people are like, I'm getting there's like, and I don't know what it is. Maybe it's this divine alignment or something. The energy is forcing people to point within. It doesn't mean that they can't do things to ignore that or block that or deny that or shift things, but that pointing will not stop. That's the time we're in right now, is this
Mhm.
pointing will not stop. And so it's like, and then the other thing I'm getting right here very clearly is the drama has no more fuel.
Yeah,
I've
it's
never
kind of
heard
ran
that
out, and I
before.
don't even have the feel that where was this going on when I was ready to get pissed off and put it and push it in their face that it's going on. Now that it is, I'm just like, okay, I'm over it.
It's more, I guess the drama has no more fuel because more and more are, yeah, they're pointing within, they're doing that inner work. There's a huge collective, more and more, and it might be smaller than the larger group, but the energy that's happening because of the transformation, because this podcast is about the new, about the child, about this transformation is happening because this group is shifting to this place, this transformation of loving themselves, unconditionally loving, and this
Hmm.
powerful energy is like it's transforming everything. The drama of the other, it doesn't have the fuel. I mean, it doesn't mean it doesn't go on. You can have some of it going on, but it's, I'm getting something now, like from the moment the soul looks at the drama, it's like the energy points to the drama and then points back to them. And it's like you can ignore, deny this pointing back, but it won't stop. And so that
No, and it
means
won't
that
stop.
it's
No,
it's
it won't stop. The light will not
that
stop.
fuel. Yeah, that fuel is no longer there. It's
No,
no
it's just
longer
running out
being
of steam.
like, and that, I guess that I'm what I'm getting, what I'm feeling is that was part of the Piscean age, that was the fuel, the energy that was supported then, the arrangements of energy of the Piscean age supported that drama and that
Yeah,
BS.
absolutely. And
that
so
you and I
towards
were
the end,
talking
we just
about.
had to hold on. Yeah, well, towards the end too of that, we just had to do a Muhammad Ali rope a dope and just wait them out. You know, I mean, just wait them out. You know, let them swing and until they were all out of energy, and just cover up, or just let them spin and spurn and sputter and just pull a Joe
Yep,
Frazier and fall over it, right? I mean,
it's
that's
over.
kind of how it's kind of how the yeah it's kind of how it ends when you get to an end of something, right? And there's a resistance to it still. That resistance slowly fades, and these things that were thought to be acceptable they're all out on the fringes. We talked about people like Pat Robertson and Swagger and
Right,
not to bag on their souls, but I
right,
am. But I'm going to. That kind of mainstream, somewhat acceptable. It's not that it was mainstream then, but it was more acceptable mainstream. Like, oh, they're doing,
right,
right. But now it's like there are people that are still like that, and they are there. And I know God love the South, especially in the South. It's kind of on the fringes, right? It's looked
very
at as,
much.
and it should, and it as well as it should be until people get it.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, you are your own guru, your own pastor, your own minister. You
Right,
can look to others for advice, for
right,
somebody to step up to, but I would even refrain from role model, because
yeah,
everybody is a flawed human being and a perfect soul at the same time. So
right.
there, so everybody, you are an infinite soul, but you could get your head blown off at a stop sign at the same time. So,
True,
right, very true, very true. So there's nothing that anybody has over you that you can like look at
beautiful.
what they've done in their life. You can look at what they've done in their life, and you can be like, okay, I kind of want to. That'd be a nice pattern. That'd be a nice pattern to fall. But you're gonna have to make
Beautiful,
your own pattern within that kind of a structure pattern that you're going to try to
beautiful.
follow, right. So
Right,
you can look at somebody like, and we still get caught up in this obsession where we look outside of ourselves. It's some god up in the cloud with a harp, playing a harp, judging. He's a judgmental god. He's a very jealous god. Oh, my Lord of all Lord of all Lord of all lords. That little joke between people and I. Yeah,
you just
that
wanted to
radio
put that in
station.
there, Larry.
Yeah, the radio. Yeah, I was gonna figure a way to put that out there. That shortwave radio station I picked up all those creepy years ago with those two people in England. My Lord, no, my Lord of all lovely lords. Jesus Christ, that Lord, man, I would, boy, I'd love to have a fan club like that. Oh my,
The only thing I'm going to add, because although what you said was just phenomenal, the only thing I'm going to add is that, and I've said this in other podcasts, but it was something I was given years ago, is that a person can be in that place where they want to fight, not physically fight, but they want to argue with you and they want to engage violent energy, right? So, but if you don't engage, if you stay in your calm space and they're wanting to do this and you don't do it, then they're in their own little tornado whirlwind, and you're separate. You're not in that. You don't.
No, and we've always in Carolyn. You're Carolyn. Now you're back. I bet Carolyn. It seemed like a long time. You blinked out. You're back. Yeah, exactly. And I think people are more what you're saying. People are now more susceptible to backing off, to just letting it go, right? Whereas what
Yep.
you're saying has always been told to do, turn the other cheek, just don't give it any attention, right? But it's becoming easier to do it. One, because we're advancing as humanity, but two, because that
Yeah.
energy is kind of dying away. So I mean, it's kind of a
Yeah.
perfect storm, a solar storm, so to speak.
Right. I just heard that the people don't have the fight in them. They don't want that fight.
Yeah.
It's like the soul, well, the souls know, but I'm getting on a conscious level, people are like, yeah, I mean, got to be another way, yeah, the fight's not in them. That's what I'm hearing. And I'm not saying that in a negative way. I'm saying that as a way of intelligence, of compassionate intelligence.
Yeah,
Um,
their higher self's taking the wheels over practically from some of these people and being like, look, It's
yeah,
this ain't working for you. This ain't working for humanity. It's not. You do what you've always done. You're gonna here. I'll throw you. My higher self's gonna throw you a cliche. You do what you've always done. You're gonna get what you've always got.
yeah. And did you see? I went in and out, and we did that thing again. What are we at? An hour and 40 minutes in?
Yeah. I'd like to say to the guests on everybody on TikTok. Look, I'm gonna look next week. Next week we will let. I would like for some people to come in and talk with us next week on whatever topic we're gonna have. But we will next week. Carol and I are still getting used to this. I'm getting used to doing the TikTok thing because I haven't done many lives on TikTok. But I just now, it was 2 nights ago, I figured out that that's what that means is that they can come in and talk. So I apologize, everybody. Listen, if you're around next week, we will take some people in, but we expect, of course, I'm not going to give you a lecture. Oh, we expect you to be on your best behavior. No, you know what I mean. You're adults. You know how to be. I mean, if you ask anything that's really stupid, you'll just be gone, and we'll move on. I might have a nice thing or two to say about you because that's how I am. You'll never get rid of the Dennis Rodman in me, the trash talker. Okay.
And hopefully we're gonna see you next week.
Yeah, we are. We're going to see me next week. Next week, we're going to see me live. So we'll both be, and then after that, the next step will be having graphics in the background, and we're figuring all this shit out. I want to have actually a commercial that goes to this before we come on air.
Cool.
That I kind of made up. Yeah, I showed that to you, something like that. An
Yes,
introduction.
you did. That's right.
You're going to see me next week. I'm going to shave my afro that I've got going on. There's another cruel joke that we all decide to play on men here is that you go bald down the. How come you don't lose hair everywhere else but the top of your head? That would be perfect if your hair just stayed on top of your head and you lost it everywhere else. I'd take the trade off. Yeah. I mean, can you imagine? Yeah, I look like Mr. T.
Put it up here.
Yeah. Right. The hair club for men. Yeah. That's the thing, Carolyn. I always thought that by the time I got to my age, they'd have a pill for it. I mean, they do have. There's expensive surgery.
No, they do.
Yeah, minoxidil. I know, but does it really? I mean, I'm talking but you really got to have a hair transplant if you really want to, or go to the hair club for men, or whatever the fuck the place is called, Dr. Bosley's place.
Yeah, I mean, my nature, the way I do things is I look for every single natural and alternative therapy before you go to the allopathic stuff.
Yeah, well then something we don't.
My first thought, and this might have been explored, but this is where I come from. I mean, my first thought is, okay, if you're having trouble growing hair, why not go get cranial sacral therapy and explore the meridians on top of your head and what they're connected
couldn't hurt,
to.
right? It couldn't hurt, and if it didn't work, I think it'd still be a beneficial experience. Actually,
there you go. It's awesome stuff.
Yeah, I mean, but it isn't like this shit. I mean, there was this stuff they sold on late night TV. It was like the spray paint. Ron Popeil sold it. The guy that did the Ron.
I remember that.
You remember the spray? You remember late night TV? Oh yeah, you spray it in your fucking hair. It was spray paint for your hair. Oh, look, and I comb it right through. He was quite a character, Ron Popeil. I love the Ronco. I always wanted one, but never got one. But I'm sure they're fucking.
Ronco. See, that's gonna date us. Anybody of our generation knows Ronco and has heard of Ronco.
That's what we had. Late night infomercials. I'd come home from closing manager at McDonald's in early 90s before the internet, and I'd come home and I'd get stoned and I'd tune on fucking either the psychic networks. I called my psychic and they said I was going to get a big phone bill. Boy, were they right. And then it shows in the scene there. Boy, were they right. I got this brand new car. The money just came to me. And then another guy, oh God, my psychic said I was going to have a big phone bill. God,
that was right. About the same time as the lifestyles of the rich and famous, right?
Yeah. Robin the Leech. Robin Leech.
Right. The something dreams, something, and something.
Champagne, caviar wishes, and champagne dreams and caviar wishes.
Look,
caviar dreams and champagne wishes.
People have. You can't have it, but they have it.
And it's okay. The whole, and it's such gluttony. I mean, because I'm all for people getting paid, but I mean, how much can you really? I mean, honestly, and I mean, really, at some point when you're talking generational wealth, like into the hundreds of millions, I could see 10, 5, 10. I mean, a million. You've worked hard your whole life, whatever. You got a lucky break, but 100 million.
I'm hearing it justified the system. It was a way.
Yeah, sure.
They were justifying the system to the masses. Is they are this people, these kind of people, and because they're this people, then they can have this stuff. But you're just you, and
Yeah. Hey, Carolyn, it's brilliant. No, really, it's brilliant though. But at some point, those kind of people are going to have to be called out for having all that gluttony, and not because there's something. I would have reveled in that kind of money, but I would have also given quite a bit of it away to not a charity, but people that families that needed it. And I'm not talking a couple million people. I am a little greedy. I'm talking like if you were worth $100 million. I'm talking getting into the tens of millions of dollars to where you couldn't spend the interest fast enough, even with a bad coke habit. No, really. I mean, that kind of money,
I
right?
hear
You know,
ya.
I mean, you could just go, you could go, you could. It's generational wealth, right? And you could set it up to where draw the interest off of it and all that. But I mean, we need to get away from that as a society. But people live like that, and then the people bitch about their taxes. Those are people usually have the money. You know what I mean? They don't.
Right.
They have two cars in a house. I mean, what more do they need? I mean, if they want more, I mean, there's somebody starving. I mean, because that's going to be you at some point. You're going to need to. Yeah, you can't just, kick the can down the road forever though,
Comes
right?
around, goes around. Yeah,
And it doesn't
absolutely.
this I worked hard to get what I got bullshit, that don't cut it
Yeah.
because I don't give a fuck how hard you worked or what you had to go through. You had to get a lucky somewhere along that way to get that well off. You had to have a lucky break here and there, a lucky break there and there, and it had to happen. And if it weren't for that,
Yeah.
it wouldn't be where you're at. So we all need each other is what I'm getting around to saying here at 1:49:29 in the
We
show.
do. And
Yeah,
that,
but
I'm
we all need each other. Yeah, we all need each other, and I mean, there are people still out there though that couldn't handle that, and they would go stupid with that kind of. I don't understand that kind of mentality though, buying all that bullshit. I mean, why?
still, the soul has to learn, right?
Yeah, God, I guess mine already learned another lifetime ago though. I mean, really, it's just
And
really.
and and just because you got all that other bullshit doesn't mean that you're happy or even love yourself, right? Or even accept
Yeah.
yourself, you know?
Yeah, and that's mind blowing to me, Carolyn. Real quick, that is still what I'm learning. That is mind blowing to me that they couldn't be with that. I mean, short of a family member that's close to them dying, or I'm not talking about that, but just that everything, there's that is status quo, but that wouldn't be enough to make you fulfilled. To go out and maybe start some organization to help people or whatever's going to fulfill you, right? I mean,
But
once you've done all the
well,
drugs and traveled everywhere in the world, you can.
you know why? Because they're seeking
Yeah.
to make external
Mhm.
change for things that need to happen internally within themselves. They're trying to find band-aids, and there are no band-aids. But those have been tried, and people continue to try these band-aids, and with no judgment. That's part of being human. Is no, I don't want to do this really hard stuff because it's going to hurt. I'm going to cry. I'm going to get angry. I might have to change this. I might have to change this. I don't know what's going to happen. And,
Yeah,
you
I
know,
hear you. I know. I
it,
can relate to that.
I mean, it can be, yes, it's very intimidating, but, the
Mhm.
beautiful thing that happens, or the part of change, is that it gets more painful to stay in that place of the what ifness and it torture than to just do it. Do that thing that your heart's pulling you towards. Do that thing that keeps bugging you. Not a mental bullshit machination, but something that is
Yeah,
calling
not a
your
suck
heart
it up. Yeah, not a
and
just go suck it up and do it thing.
pull it.
It's deeper than that. Yeah.
It's deeper than that. It's like it won't leave you alone. Maybe you've
Right.
got people telling you things that you don't even know. They say something out of the blue, and
Mhm.
it really resonates.
Mhm.
Maybe it's not even connected to what you're talking about, but you take it that way.
Yeah,
It's
one
got to
thing
be
they say connects a whole puzzle for you. It's that quantum entanglement, right? You can have it all figured out, and then you knew it, but
right,
then you say something and it articulates it, and it really hits home, right? And there's more and more of that happening.
right, right. That connection, absolutely, and the beautiful thing is what I just told you is more mm, known on a conscious level than has ever been known. That's why we are where we are moving into as a collective. The consciousness is raising because to me, the way I always get it is everything that can be known is known, and
Mhm.
that's
Yeah, you
about
said that. It's true. It's true though.
exploring. We've explored. And when I always talk about this, it's not it's the depths of the mentality, the depths of the cerebral expression without
Mhm.
compassion have been explored. And we know where that goes.
Yeah,
So
you know where
now,
you're at, you know your tools now, and now it's somebody. I mean, like where you're at now, you know where what you've got and now. Yeah, right, kind of in a way.
and it's about, yeah, I mean, and for me, what I get is it's now about allowing compassion to lead you, and allowing that to be walking with your wisdom, your intelligence, and filling the space you live in, which flows out from you into the whole world. And it's not
Absolutely,
this
absolutely.
isolated conversation with self about. When I speak self, it's not selfish. It all begins within us. We don't know
Sure
shit.
does. Definitely.
We don't know what love is until we give it to ourselves, and
No.
what we like and what we don't like about that, right? And then you can actually have a clue of what it means to love another. And so yeah,
Jesus love.
so how are we, Larry? Are we
We're
right
about
there?
one. Yeah, we're about time. Yeah, because if we go any longer, I'll have to split it up into more than two different shows here for
Okay,
TikTok, only taking an hour. So why don't we
so
go ahead and are you okay with letting the fine folks out there know where in the wonderful, wonderful, wonderful freaking world of social media they can find Carolyn Lanier Roberts down in San Antonio, Texas, home of the Alamo, by the way.
you can find me on Facebook, Carolyn Linnea Roberts. That's my personal page. Mission business page is Allowing the Light. Um, and public, I'm public on my personal page. Let me think. Okay, on Instagram, I'm Allowing the Light, and there's an underscore between each of those words.
Between the allow
Um,
and then the light. Yep.
yeah, and then YouTube. I haven't done anything recently, but I have two channels. Allowing the Light, and I don't know. I think it's just Allowing the Light. Um,
Yeah,
and
we're gonna
then
get those other programs off there, and I'll take. I'm gonna tape. I'm gonna end up taping those for you and get those on your other one, so you can just shut that other one down.
well, okay, and then the other channel is Carolyn Linnea Roberts, and then parentheses is Allowing the Light. Yeah, I suck at this stuff. So, but I got videos that I've put out there up to 8 years ago. Not
Mm-hmm.
that many though, but what is it? I have an Etsy store, which is hey, it's that word again, that phrase, allowing the light. The search.
Allowing the light.
Because to me, nothing happens until you first allow. You have to first allow anything to happen. You have to allow it. It's the door. The door
Mm-hmm.
is the allowing. And so on Etsy, which is a labyrinth, if you want to find me, just put in the search section party supplies. I think it's party supplies. I hope that's right. And then you put Allowing the Light. I'm going to be in one of those 4 searches on that page. And on my Etsy store, I sell my light language infused blessing picks. Um, I don't have the one that we're using as the screen thing for this, but I might if there's a demand for it. These are
Mm-hmm.
very sacred for me, and they're full of codes. And even the words I'm hearing are encoded within the
Yes.
souls that are called to them. And then yes, so I have my joy doodles, and then I have my blessing picks, which is my photography that you can see. What else? I think that's it. I'm grateful
Uh,
so much for your time and attention, and we're definitely going to explore this more. But I think we're good for today, and I pray that this serves the soul's called. Thank you, Larry.
Boy, I mean, that's a woman who likes to talk about herself. I mean, I'm the kind of guy who really won't say much, about myself, except for that I am rocking Larry Locken, your host with the most from coast to coast, giving up all the toast, giving you coolness, hotness, and everything you could have possibly cosmically wanted in this. You can find me. I'm going to make it real simple, like I say every episode, because I'm on every mother effing social media platform there is, except for maybe SunCloud. Okay, but I'm on most of them. Okay, all the chats, the grams, the yicks, the yaks, the bips, the bops, the skies, the lemonades. My friend Nate is on lemonade because he likes to master his checkmate skills for chess. Um, so I'm on all that shit, but you can find where that's all at. Go to Facebook and go to Rockin' Larry Locken's social media outlets. Okay, Rockin' Larry Locken's. That's Locken with an E, Locken, Rockin' with an E, Rocken. Rockin' Larry Locken's social media outlets, or you can type in my secondary name to the page, the Larry Locken Network. It'll tell you every single group I've ever created over the years on Facebook, every page I'm on. I'd appreciate if you'd like it. I need like less than 50 likes to get 10,000, and I'd really like to have 10,000 so I could quit I could feel good about myself again. Okay. Otherwise I won't. Or no, I will. But the thing is, if you like that page, you're not going to get 1,000 dings and dongs from it. Cause the only thing that gets posted there is when I start something. There's something new going on. That's it. Like this show, like I think one of the last ones I put on there was a show, and then maybe some social media platform I gain. You're not going to get any notices from it. Okay, like ever, once every several months at the most. Okay, and you probably won't even get that one. You can find me there, and we appreciate you tuning in. Please make sure you tune in next week when we'll have another great not groundbreaking, but a new spin on a subject that needs to be put to the forefront, right? Um, and that's what we do here. We're frequency keepers, Carolyn and I are, and we're just moving it forward, keeping the ball moving in the right direction. And with that being said, I am your host for Carolyn&Larry Roberts. I am Rockin' Larry Locken, wishing everybody out there a big cosmic dating game kiss for all you old timers out there, way old timers. Okay, wave, Carolyn, wave by like you're in a game show, like on a setting, the credits are rolling. Wave, yeah, wave, yeah, there you go, yeah. And this has been Rockin' Larry Locken, another Carolyn&Larry Roberts production. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, party supplies. Yeah, her party supply. Yeah, gee, break out the hats and hooters when Carolyn comes home. We're gonna party on. All right.
All
All right. We're out. We're out. Can I? Okay. Up. Wait. There.